You ever find a great local business and think, why didn't I know about this sooner? I'm Eric Bull, and on Small Business Big Dreams, we're uncovering the best places to shop, the top experts to trust, and the stories behind the businesses that make life just better. Whether you're a shopper, a business owner, or just someone who loves a great success story, this podcast is for you. So let's dive in and meet the people behind the businesses you wish you'd have found sooner.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Small Business Big Dreams. This week, we are actually going to get a little spicy. We have Daniel, owner of Park Avenue Hot Sauces. Welcome, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Dude, he brought me already. Actually, I don't even know he knew. One of my favorites, their Green Rush. Give us a little plug on what the Green Rush hot sauce.
So Green Rush pretty much was the kickoff of the whole entire brand.
This is the first one?
The first one.
Oh,
yeah.
I love it.
Sort of because it's a jalapeno-based hot sauce.
Okay.
And I felt that jalapenos are so widely available, and they're kind of very forgiving. It's like and they're cheap too.
Okay.
So it's like you don't have to worry about spending a lot of money and messing stuff up and stuff like that. So, but yeah, this is pretty much my entry level hot sauce.
We're talking from like a heat level entry, or
yeah, somewhere along the lines.
Okay.
I do keep the jalapeno seeds inside.
That's where the heat is.
Yeah, because a lot of jalapeno hot sauces that I've tried in the past, it's jalapeno quote unquote flavored.
Okay.
You can't really admire the natural heat from the hot sauce, but yeah, and if you even look closely at the logo, that's the jalapeno pepper right there.
On the front there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, that was my grand opening idea. So it's jalapeno with lime. Two of my favorite things in food. Yeah, that collaboration is just, you pour that on some steak or something, you're ready to go.
I'm one of those, like, I love putting hot sauce, good hot sauces on anything and everything. You name it.
Yeah.
All right, so we've introduced the Green Rush. Let's introduce you, Daniel. Give us a little background. Did you just wake up one morning and want to start a hot sauce company? And what were you doing before you got into all that?
So before I was doing hot sauce, I wasn't really doing anything. I'm married, have a family, full-time husband, full-time, father. So before that, I still, for my full-time job, I still work at where I'm work at currently.
Oh, okay.
So this kind of came along as a hobby. Growing up, I didn't really get that deep into spicy stuff. Okay. And, most of the hot sauce I saw was either, Louisiana or Frank's Red Hot. Those are the only really two
Tabasco,
things. Yeah, exactly.
Bottle of vinegar.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I personally still like Tabasco.
Okay.
But yeah. So that's Tabasco's definitely always in my cabinet. Just switching flavors in and out.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But yeah. So I know this is probably gonna sound so cliche, but the thing that kind of got me into the idea of making my own hot sauce was that the YouTube show Hot Ones.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Way back, like in its earlier stages.
For our, like, non-informed listeners, what is Hot Ones on YouTube?
So Hot Ones is it's a show hosted by Sean Evans. He's actually from Illinois.
Yeah.
Also, yeah. He interviews celebrities, whether it's actors, musicians, and they go. It's basically an interview where they ask questions, and they have a plate of wings in front of them, and you get to see what each type of sauce they have, and as the questions go on, the sauces get hotter and hotter. So
and they got to either answer the question or eat the hot, really hot.
No, they have to eat it.
They have
to eat it as they go.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of just entertainment. You see their
It's
facial.
funny.
Yeah. But so prior to that, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't really know there was a huge, hot sauce scene.
It's insane, dude.
It's
now
kind of,
you know.
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm seeing all these brands. I'm like, where's all this stuff at? And it's like, it's all mostly online. But that kind of just blew me away. I was like, I feel like I need to go out and try every single thing. It's kind of like craft beer. It's like
no, but for real, yeah. There's
know.
so many different flavor profiles and heat level. I mean, everything, you name it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first introduction to homemade hot sauce was back when I first got married. My wife and I, we were living in Gurnee at the time, and she had a small little ghost pepper plant outside.
Okay, yeah.
And so she homemade that, and I was like, oh, well, I'll give that a try. I tried making my own, and my first attempt was just awful.
I don't know anybody who's ever said their first attempt at anything was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I could pretty hard on myself sometimes, but it was so bad that I just dumped it. I was like, all right, obviously I'm not good at this. But it was kind of a spark, when I came across that Hot Ones, and then I found another video under the Hot Ones account showing how they make it.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, and so that kind of was like my guide, my tutorial towards that.
Okay.
And so I'm like, you know what? Let's try this again. If it doesn't work out, just keep on trying, because if they can do it,
why
like,
can't I?
why can't I? So, so you just go through a lot of trials and errors, and with Green Rush, that came out as my first solid, hot sauce to begin with.
What was the time frame? When did you kick off with the Green Rush?
So I started it. It does say on the bottle, NOIL, which means like Northern Illinois.
Okay.
2018. Yeah. So that's when I had like an actual good foundation. That's like the same year where I started it up, where I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this.
Love that.
I'm gonna try it. Just as a little hobby. So I would make stuff. The Green Rush at the time, I would give it to friends and family for feedback, and did little tweaks here and there. But I started noticing, they're like, "Hey, man, that was really good. Can I get another one?" So just
you got something going.
Yeah. And before I knew it, I had a small little fan base.
Love that.
Yeah.
So were you at the time? So in 2018, this became official, right?
Yeah.
Were you like already have it like just then figuring out like the bottling and the like mass production? Are you doing this all in your house, or how does that work?
Yeah. So so I was doing it in my house just for fun.
Yeah.
Around at summer of 2022 is when I became an official LLC.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A nice thing is the cottage home food law.
Cottage home food law. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with this.
So many states have this. It's basically, it's giving you the green light to make food within your home.
Okay.
And you can legally sell it. So it's kind of a process. You fill out a lot of paperwork. And all that stuff.
No way the government makes you fill out a ton of paperwork.
They want to make sure you're not killing anybody.
Yeah, right.
So, but yeah, the cottage home food law, you basically work with I worked with the Lake County Health Department.
Okay.
You take the food safety management course, and all the paperwork. They just want to know what you're doing, how stuff is being made, how you're sanitizing your products and all that stuff. Yeah, just to make sure everything's in line, and then and then you just go on from there. You get certified. You got to retake the food safety course. I believe it's every 5 years.
Oh, okay. So that's not too bad.
No,
okay.
No.
So what is it called again? Cottage home.
Yeah, cottage home food law. Yeah.
Now, did you have to did they force you to modify your kitchen or anything like that, or you just nothing like that?
No, cool. You just gotta keep it clean.
Cleanliness.
Yeah.
Well, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously,
just keep it clean, right?
Because you're selling food to the public.
Right?
And that's a health concern. Yeah.
So it's 2018 to 2022. 2022 was the official LLC. So what was it? Just kind of like an ad hoc side thing then for a couple of years before?
Yeah.
What changed that said, hey, this is going to be a company, make it an LLC? What was there something that really pivoted that?
I would say the demand.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
All right.
So I know I said Green Rush was my first, and then I came up with the other two sauces, which is sweet turmoil, which is
yes.
mango habanero with raw honey, and Hades burden, and that's Carolina Reaper and ghost pepper mixed together.
Whoa. You ain't playing on that one.
Yeah.
Is there a story behind the name Park Avenue?
Yeah, so Park Avenue is the street I grew up on as a kid in the North Chicago, Great Lakes area. It's in North Chicago, but it's pretty much right down the street from the Navy base.
Oh yeah, okay.
So, so growing up with on Park Ave, that's where I came up with the idea. It took me about 3 months to come up with a name. Because here I am, at home making bottles, but they're basically just naked bottles. They're just filled with product, but there's nothing to represent it with. So I remember when I first started brainstorming, I was on a family vacation with my wife's side family up in Wisconsin Dells, and I'm sitting there in the hotel balcony, just looking off into the sky, like trying to brainstorm, So I was like, oh, I had this cool idea, it's like I got 3 sauces, one is quote unquote, depending on your heat profile, mild, moderate, and then super hot. I was like, well, maybe I could do like a military vibe. Like the entry level was peace treaty. Second one is declaration of war.
Okay.
And then hottest one is nuclear wasteland. I don't know. Like I'm just trying to think of
some
stuff.
of the names of these hot sauces though, like are right up that alley.
Oh yeah. You go into one of those hot sauce stores and you see like Devil's Butt Blaster or something like that.
Crazy.
Yeah, something like that. It has to have bone and fire. So, but so I would say that was definitely one of the hardest things trying to develop this brand. And with my habit of overthinking at times, it just took a while. But just reflecting back, it's like, well, I do and care about my family.
Yeah.
So, and just bringing the brand name back where home is.
I love that, dude. That is.
I'm not trying to make that sound like a Hallmark moment. Or
no,
something,
but it is, man. Like, dude, you're getting me all choked up. Like, sometimes we've talked on this podcast before. Like, the unsung heroes is that family, right? Like, how much my wife puts up with all the things I do. I know, like. She does not get the credit I should give her for like putting up with it, being supportive, late nights, early mornings, strangers in the house doing podcasts all the time. They are truly, our, cornerstone of our lives. Right.
Yeah.
I have to give you a massive shout out. So I have seen a lot of things with this podcast, just in life in general. Mm-hmm. Your branding is awesome. Thank you. So clean. It is so like it just got this like kind of like your Devil's Butt Blaster. Like you walk into these and everyone's just trying to be wilder and like so many of them are cartoonish and it like some of them are so busy I can't even like what am I looking at, right?
Exactly.
And it's just so clean. It's so straightforward and like I picture this like on a shelf in like a wood, like a Mariano's or like a Whole Foods.
Right.
Like, it fits right there with the best of the best, dude. It looks so good.
Yeah. All that credit goes to a buddy of mine, Ed King. He actually, we had a couple of brainstorm sessions with each other.
Yeah.
We actually spent, we hung out for a little bit at Something's Brewing.
Oh, I love that spot.
Downtown Grizzly.
That's where my wife's at right now, actually.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, so, it's like, and this was a time where I had to name, but now I had to put something towards that. And so, I tried something myself, but that was just terrible. But, like, I had, the ideas in my head. And, like, well, maybe I can have, like, some hipster dude with a... the wild mustache and the, the hats that they wear, something trendy, hipster or whatever. But, it was, we definitely, together just cranked out this idea. But yeah, all that design is to his credit.
Well,
so
shout out Ed King. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Ed, man.
Yeah.
You guys crushed it.
Yeah, and he does his own website development,
very
graphics, and
cool.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Hey, does he have a company name, or is he just kind of do his own thing, or?
He does develop websites for other companies.
So shout out to Ed, man. Yeah. If you guys need some branding help, he crushed it with Park Avenue, guys. But I wanted to double back. So just because morbid curiosity, let's call it that. You were going through you talked about kind of the names of the hot sauces. Did you have any other names for the business for Park Avenue before it landed there?
No.
You just eventually just got to that point.
Yeah, just got to that point. Yeah.
I had I think I talked about this on one of my episodes last season, and I changed the name of my podcast like 2 days before I launched it.
Nice.
I originally was gonna call it Digging It.
Okay.
And it was like the whole idea was like I'm gonna dig in with business owners and local, like community supporters and all these things. And I was talking to a couple of friends about it, and they're like, between your logo and the name, I thought it was going to be about construction. I was
right.
like, oh, shit. So I'm like literally 3 days before the first episode launches, and I scrapping the whole thing and like started over. It was just like, I was like, as soon as all I thought was gems and rocks and construction, I was like, I had to get away from it. So I just have to say branding is so important. Names are important. But you did a great job with all this, man. This looks so good. Let's segue a little bit here. What was some of the early challenges you faced that you just weren't expecting? You didn't realize how much would go into bottling and creating this for a consumer product?
So definitely when you're first experimenting, you got to worry about, is one flavor profile going to overpower the other? And then once you find that solid footing, you're like, okay, we got the flavor down. Let's work on the texture, So
people are big on texture.
Yeah, it's like, 'cause in the early stages, I was very Green Rush. In the early stages, it was pretty heavy. It was thick.
The consistency of it.
Yeah. So I actually took out a couple of other ingredients, and this led me to the idea that less is more. You look at besides Tabasco or anything like that. Next time you go to the grocery store, look at all the other brands there, and you'll see a long list of ingredients.
Yeah.
Like I picked up one of Buffalo Wild Wings hot sauces, it's like
a laundry
two
list.
paragraphs of just ingredients
and stuff you can't pronounce.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh god, it's like giving me like weird vibes thinking about it now.
Yeah, and that's one thing that is a lot of my customers appreciate. You see the ingredient list, you see it's just natural. It's not, there's no food dyes or corn syrup, or anything like that.
Dude, it's straightforward. I'm holding a Green Rush right now. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 ingredients: water, jalapenos, red onion, apple cider vinegar. Never would have guessed that. Lime juice, garlic, salt, and black pepper. Like, that reminds me of was it Breyer's ice cream? One of their commercials where they got the kids reading the ingredients, and it's like dextrose, blah blah blah, and then like milk, sugar, and cream. It's like, keep it simple, stupid. It's like, and that's the best stuff. I mean, it's natural, it's good stuff.
Yeah, but going back a little bit, it's finding that consistency, because you can throw all those ingredients together, but it can still come out a train wreck.
Oh yeah, I could go grab all 8 of these right now, right in my kitchen.
Yeah,
it would never taste like this ever. Oh well, consistency, ratios. How do you? Okay, actually now curiosity is going to kill the cat on this one. Obviously, like, you make bigger batches, right? And then bottle it. Like, how do you keep it so it's like as close as you can to like an even distribution? Because all of a sudden, like, I could see where jalapeno seeds clump into a certain area, right? And one bottle is going to have maybe a ton more, right?
Yeah. So when I first started out with the equipment that I started out with, I could only make about maybe 6 to 7 bottles per batch.
That's pretty small.
Yeah, I had a little Black and Decker kitchen blender and a little pot, and it was just to experiment, which I still use to this day.
That's your R&D.
If I'm like gonna experiment with something, but it's so I eventually I was able to get like a heavy duty commercial immersion blender.
Oh yeah,
stick. So and trying to stay on topic with that, I would go through other hot sauce profiles on Instagram, like see how things are made.
Yeah.
Get ideas.
Love
that. Obviously, I'm not doing what some of these other people are doing. I'll have industrial tanks, making batches of
50-gallon barrels.
Yeah, it's like you holding a immersion blender that requires 2 hands because it's so huge.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And then so I was able to, once I started signing up for shows and stuff, it's like, all right, well, I gotta make more batches. I'm not gonna spend all night making 7 at a time. So. I was able to get equipment to where roughly a batch cranks out about 20 to 24 bottles.
Oh, way better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Way better.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's along with the consistency is also the equipment involved. You would think that glass bottle is a glass bottle, but quality is there.
Yeah.
I remember
these are heavy duty. These are no chachi little glass bottles.
Yeah, I remember a time where, and this can tie to the question of what would you do differently? It was don't try and cut corners, because I found like this 48 pack of bottles on Amazon for a little bit cheaper than what I spend, and it was a different brand, and then I got the sauce ready and I'm about to bottle it, and then come to find out that the caps, I guess when they were molded, the plastic caps, they didn't fit right.
Oh my god!
So
that's
I'm
the most
like,
Amazon thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I was so bummed out. I'm like, that's what I get for trying to save $1 or something.
Yeah, it's like the couple bucks, and now you're set back hours of work, and the bottles are useless.
Mm-hmm.
It's like. I think almost every podcast, everyone has mentioned something like that. Like you cut a corner and you're going to pay for it down the road, you know? And it's just like, just don't do it, man. It's just like, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul at that point.
Right. I hope I answered your question. I don't know if I got it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And that's one of those like type of questions where there was probably a million things, right? Like anytime anyone's opening a business for the first time, it's like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we talk about a lot. It takes a certain type of person to do it, right? Some people like to just already know or have a book that tells them this is A, then you do B, then you do C. Well, sometimes you're doing A and X, Y, and L and Z all at the same time, and sometimes you got to go back and do it all again. So I think that's just part of the entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah, learn as you go.
And still learning,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Where you 2022 you hit a demand that really made you have to like solidify this, right? Middle of COVID or pretty heavy into COVID. So how were you selling? Like where were people picking up your product from?
So at that time, it was pretty much just like a hit me up type scenario.
Okay.
I didn't really have
Everyone had a
site.
sauce guy.
Yeah. It wasn't really a, I didn't have a website or anything.
Okay.
It's just, and I wasn't making anywhere near as much sauce as I do now. It was just more of a, hey, I know a guy type situation.
You just make some good shit.
Yeah.
Go down this back alley, knock twice.
Right. Yeah. Come to hours of 8 and 10 only.
Oh, it's so good. What, so now where are you selling your product today?
So I do have a web store. It's parkavhotsauces.square.site. Just
for you guys, we'll put that in. We'll tag the heck out of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I do have the web store, and I do sign up for events each year. I first started one of my first events was an event in downtown Antioch.
Okay.
It was for like their fall festival.
Oh yeah. The
Yeah.
whole street, and they line all kinds of different stuff
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, and everybody thought I was related to. I guess there's a store, a restaurant nearby there. It's like Park Street or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was
you
like,
were
no,
part
no
now.
relation at all. But yeah, that was one of my first ones, and I was trying to reflect on that when I was looking over the questions, and I was like, I remember how nervous I was, because in the past I've had customer service jobs.
Okay.
I was a barista for 5 years,
Oh, yeah.
roughly 5 years, so interact with people all the time. But this was the first time where it's like everything in front of me represents me.
Yeah.
This brand is
All about you.
define who I am. So I remember one of my first like in-person customers like trying to answer their questions without stumbling on my words, so because I'm not representing a company, I'm representing myself.
Yeah.
So it was definitely that. So and then one of my next shows after that, I did it was like an outdoor Halloween event at Black Lung Brewery.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Josh.
We're trying to get Josh on the show, but our calendars suck, man.
Yeah, he's a busy guy,
Well, the
So,
two locations, man, he's running around. But.
Yeah, so that's when I was dealing with a little bigger audience,
Yeah.
But I was still trying to find my footing in where is this customer base at, I even did a couple events after that where I felt like I was kind of the oddball there. All the other vendors are marketed towards a whole different crowd, like jewelry and, stuff like that. And
like craft stuff.
yeah. And there's always a market for that, but, here I am where I'm in an area where probably the majority of the attendees aren't even thinking about hot sauce. So, but, in a couple of those situations, I did better than I expected. I was like,
honestly, maybe being the oddball worked out in your favor. You
Yeah.
kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, but everyone's like, well, then who are you? What are you doing over there? You
Yeah.
know? Like, what is this? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And majority of people that came up to me that they were like, oh, my grandson likes, hot sauce. I'll get it for him and stuff like that. So
Love that.
yeah, as a as a entrepreneur, that was a good lesson. Never assume
Right.
your audience. And so that happened around summer of 2023. And then I signed up for the Mundelein Farmers Market, and that was where I was like,
Really, man, that place
Yeah.
gets packed.
yeah, exactly. And a good turning point that kind of built my confidence was returning customers.
There's nothing more solidifying than a returning customer.
Yeah, for
Seriously. I mean, it's like my big kind of, we'll call it side hustle, my photography, videography stuff. And I do work and, I think it's amazing and they say it's amazing, and they sometimes think like they just say that, but then they're
Right.
like, hey, now we want to use you again. It's like, oh, they meant it. They
Yeah.
liked it, man. It's good stuff,
Yeah, for sure.
Love that. I think, and I was trying to think, I think the first time I had your stuff, I got it Harbor Brewing, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're there often now. Like, as
Yeah.
of recent, man, it feels like you're there all the time.
Yeah. Shout out to Mallory. Yeah. Yeah. They keep welcoming me back for some reason.
God, well, I don't know why, man.
Yeah. No, they've been, really great. They definitely, I've seen how much they actually care about, the community with the small businesses, many opportunities, because especially this time of year where it's, so cold out, it's definitely the slow season. So it gives, businesses opportunity to,
Keep
Have
making
some
some money.
life,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because January, February, man, is usually, it's rough.
Yeah, it
right
is.
after the holidays, it's ice cold. No one wants to go out. Everyone's
Yeah.
broke.
right. Yeah.
Waiting on those tax returns, or Uncle Sam's taking a check from me this year.
Right.
the other, I don't it's digress too much here, but with like the harbor brewing versus like farmers markets, the cost to the small business too, right? Like I looked at doing some things with Grays Lake Farmers Market and Libertyville's Farmers Market, but a booth, like for me to justify it or no, it's like, and in some businesses it's nominal, but for a newer business trying to figure that water, I mean that's some pretty upfront cost on some of these farmers markets.
Yeah, but
similar.
But the nice thing is, because I had to do this with Mundelein and with my plans this year, you can do selective dates.
Oh, that's nice.
So you can pay a good chunk of money for the whole season. And if you can afford that, by all means, but it is nice to have that option to where you can have it spread out a little bit.
Do day for ones. Well, and then it allows you too, as you being a one man show, go to different things, right? Like as much as you maybe like going to Mundelein, you're like, well, I want to reach over here and grow that customer base. How has your growth been out of like a in-person like events like that versus e-commerce? Are you able to ship everywhere, or how does that work?
Yeah, so part of the cottage home law, you can ship within the state.
Okay. Within the state,
yeah.
Okay.
Something might change later down the road, but I know that's one thing that they're trying to push, but I don't personally see it happening
anytime soon.
But I do have some customers that are just dedicated to the website.
Yeah.
And there's some that will only buy at an event. And I can also have people place an order online. They can pick it up at my residence also.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Most of my sales are at like the in-person events.
Right now. Which do you prefer as the business owner?
I would say, all business is appreciated.
Good business,
obviously.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but
of course.
Definitely the in-person would be my favorite. I've had interactions with customers who are, I guess you would call them chili heads, people that are really into
I love that.
hot sauce.
I love that.
We get to talking in like 5-minute, 10-minute conversations, talking about sauces we like, sauces we don't like, and certain notes that we like, and food pairings, and just bounce ideas off each other. Be like, oh yeah, you can use this sauce for this and that. And, I always try to keep a mental note of the type of foods that people say they used from my sauce, because their ideas, I did not even think about that when trying to think of these recipes.
Yeah, you should get this in front of some chefs, man. Let them partner up with some restaurants.
Well, so that's another thing too. Being under the cottage home law, you can't do that.
Oh, no, man,
because you got to either own or rent a commercial kitchen, and then you can have it in stores and such. But during my early stages, when I became official, I was trying to remember. I don't know what compelled me to do this, but I'm a big fan of Big Ed's Barbecue.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you not be? Have you been to his new location yet?
Not yet. Not yet.
It's only been like 4 days.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
on
my
agenda. Out there.
It's on my agenda. Trust me. I need my mac and cheese, man. my burnt ends. But I went there just to introduce myself, and I gave him a bottle, and for someone of his expertise and his knowledge of just business, the knowledge of the food culture, the feedback I got from him, he loved it. So
That's
I was
awesome.
like, someone at that stature, to say that, positive feedback to me, I'm like, all right, this is
Shout out Eddie, man, loving
yeah.
the Park Avenue. I love that.
yeah.
I mean, that plug alone right there is just, I mean, for your own sake, right?
Yeah.
Like, no matter what happens between business to business, that's just, it's kind of like that, almost like a seal of approval that you're doing
Right.
something right, Yeah. Man, I almost feel like that if like Big Ed, if Eddie had, tried my brisket, it's like, oh, that's not bad. Even if he just said that,
Yeah.
and I'd be like,
At least you got some attention,
Right? Like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm doing something right.
Yeah. And I have another friend of mine. He's got a culinary food degrees, and he appreciates it too.
Heck yeah.
You know, yeah. So I was like, all right, these people, because I personally have no, food kitchen experience. I'm not a chef. I'm not even an amateur.
Well, I mean, you got to at least call yourself an amateur now. You're bottling up some really good hot sauce. I mean,
yeah, but like prior to this, I've
no background at all in it.
No, I remember when I was a kid living on Park Ave. I would make ramen noodle, chop up a hot dog into pieces, and think I was like a master chef or something.
I chopped a hot dog. Yeah. I'll look out, Iron Chef. Here I come.
I even added some onion to it.
Oh, whoa! Calm down here. We're getting gourmet.
Yeah,
I love it. What would take? What would you have to do differently or change? And I think you alluded to it, but if you were going to get so big, you're ending up in stores and restaurants and stuff like that. Do you have to get like a totally different license and different kitchen?
Yeah,
and stuff?
I don't know the full aspect to it, but you do either have to rent or own a commercial kitchen.
Man.
I'm sure there's more, paperwork involved and
permits. And
all that stuff.
licensing.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
man.
but if I do reach that level, then we'll see what
That's
happens.
a good problem
but,
to have.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. But that's the cool thing about the college home law is that it's kind of like a good starting point.
It's a lower point of entry to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. We always have to make personal sacrifices, right?
Mm-hmm.
To because obviously you have a full-time job and you're growing Park Ave. What have those sacrifices looked like, and how has it impacted either the business or your home life, right? And how are you managing that?
So I don't believe there's been a huge impact. There's been times where
knock on wood.
Let's get that out of the way. I've had to sacrifice some times where maybe my family is out doing something, but I got an event that day, or the family want to go out and do something, but I got to stay and make hot sauce, So, but I have an amazing wife, so she's very understanding. So,
Shout out, right? Yep.
Yeah. It was, but it's definitely helped me out a little bit with time management. And just being an owner, making sure you're staying on top of your supplies, make sure your backups have a backup, thing. You order, I know this happened one time, I ordered some bottles and they arrived and half of them were crushed, inside. So I'm
sucks.
like, I need this for a batch for like a few days. So, yeah. So,
I know you talked about, so you've got the 3 hot sauces today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Green Rush, what are the other 2 again?
Sweet Turmoil.
That's the middle one,
Yeah,
right? Yep.
yeah. And then Hades Burden.
I think you alluded before we started recording, there's the 4th one potentially coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the 4th one?
Should I keep it secret or not?
Well, it'll be a couple weeks after this recording, so up to you. Up to you if we're gonna knowledge drop today.
For people who are pretty close to me, they have an idea, but it's gonna be a chipotle sauce.
Okay. Oh, I love. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Now you're talking my language. I like those. All right.
But it's definitely gonna have a really deep connection with the Park Ave story.
Ooh, we might have to bring you back on for that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I would say this sauce that I'm going to release, it definitely has strong family connections. That's behind the Park Ave story.
Do you have at least like a launch date ish that we should be looking out for it?
I told myself I was going to do like a spring launch.
Yeah,
but I'm anxious, so I might do it earlier.
You're ready. You want to get it going.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
That.
Yeah, I work with Ed, and he helped me out. We were brainstorming again with some labeling.
Mr. King, Ed King.
Yeah. Kang. So that's
Kang.
K-A-N-G.
Kang. My apologies.
Kang. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. That's okay. yeah, the branding and the logo, it's his expertise.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so we were trying to think of what can we make this label look like, because obviously Chipotle is red smoked jalapenos.
Yep.
You don't get the same effect with the green. Yeah.
So good.
But we already have, Hades Burden, which the color of the pepper on the bottle is red.
Okay.
So, we kind of had to brainstorm of how can we make this stand out, to that, so we don't have people accidentally grab Hades when they're grabbing
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be a nice little wake up call,
Yeah.
Thinking Chipotle, nope, it's Hades.
Right, yeah. But yeah, it's definitely something I've been excited about. I've had a couple of other ideas in my head, but I don't want to trip over myself with it. So once we get this launched out,
Slowly but surely,
So
man.
sure,
yeah.
yeah.
Knock it out. Yeah, it's I like your low SKU count because you can really hyper focus and get these things dialed in and really push them. I've seen too many businesses where they start out and they've got way too many SKUs.
Yeah.
And either the branding is distracting and I can't figure out who you are or what you're trying to be, or they get so scattered that they can't focus on, getting some really, really good, like give me 10 good SKUs and then slowly build on it. Right.
Right.
Like, it's like if you came out swinging with a hot sauce and a chip and 10 other things to go along that, kind of fit within the category, but
Right.
it's like, but what are you trying to be? Right.
Exactly.
It's like,
When you go to craft shows, and this is definitely nothing negative, everyone has different things that they sell, but a lot of tables you approach, it's very busy. There's a lot to look at, and they have a lot of products, and you appreciate the time and stuff
course,
they
yeah.
put into it.
a lot of them are handmade.
Yeah,
You
but it can be a lot at times. So for those who have seen my booths, it kind of has like a
almost bare
yeah,
kind of
like
vibe to it.
minimalist.
Yeah,
intent.
minimalist. That's a better
Yeah.
yeah. Minimalist. I like that.
Especially when I first started, I was looking back at old pictures, and I was like, man, that is really bland out there, because I didn't have a clue what I was doing, And then you look at what other people are doing, and then I kind of went a little overboard where I bought like a 3-tier stack. It looked cool, but I also saw it as maybe like a safety risk. I'm like, oh, what if someone bumps into there? The whole
Thing goes
bottles
over,
just shatter
All
everywhere.
that
But
inventory.
yeah, but I think we're at a good spot right now, and don't want to be too flashy.
Yeah.
Because again, looking at the bottle, and the label, I think it says enough with what's
my
on
God,
there.
yeah.
Yeah,
It tells me exactly what
Right
I
there.
need to know, and I
Right.
love that.
Yeah.
And it's like I look at it, and I actually know this is a hot sauce. This is what it is. There's not like overly busy label. It's
Yeah.
like it's so clean.
And the thing is also, I point this out for newer customers. You can see the texture,
In the
when
bottle.
in the bottle.
yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
What's the least favorite thing you like about running your own business?
Making peeling mangoes.
Peeling mangoes.
Yeah.
All right, that's a first.
Well,
Okay.
what's funny about that is the sweet turmoil sauce is currently one of my most popular sold right now. I've had that fan base for that sauce, because every sauce I have has like a dedicated fan base. I don't really know many who are like, oh, I got to have all three at the same time. You're either team this or that.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and so sweet turmoil definitely took off a lot. So I made things easier. I bought an orange peeler, trying to do mangoes, and it's like you go and get mangoes. Like, oh, maybe they're not ripe enough, and then that's a challenging thing for me. But I'm sure other chef people are like, oh, this guy's an idiot. So,
I bet there's like somebody out there who's got like a trick video on how to like an easier way to
Yeah,
mangoes, right?
I looked it up on YouTube, and of course, when you try it,
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't
No,
work.
like, come on. Yeah. Peeling mangoes.
Yeah, peeling mangoes, and also just staying with the consistency,
of the product itself.
Yeah, of the product itself.
Yeah.
And you have different, you could buy the same peppers, but maybe that batch that the farmer supplied, the heat isn't as hot.
Yeah.
I had a batch of Green Rush one time where, cause obviously, I taste test before I bottle it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And there was no heat at all.
That's
Yeah. So I don't know if I just came across, a crappy batch. I mean, there were good peppers, good color, good and everything, but the heat just wasn't there because that's the point of the Green Rush. The heat, although it is minimal, it needs to be there.
I think of all the hot peppers I've personally have experienced, I think jalapeno is the most inconsistent. Where like I feel like I've had a jalapeno and it's like I just popped in a green pepper, like nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I've had jalapenos that I'm like, this is gonna ruin my mouth.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? Like this is like it's not supposed to be this hot,
Exactly.
Not that I lean towards on the not as hot side, like give me some flavor versus bring the heat. My wife on the other side, she wants to be sweating. Like she wants to go hot, like mess it up.
Oh yeah, I'm one of those idiots where it's like the hotter the better, but the feedback I've gotten for my Hades bourbon is that although it's contains Reaper and Ghost Pepper, people have said it actually has a good flavor to it.
I love that.
So
yeah, I'm like, bring the heat, but give me something too. Like, give me some flavor. It's like I'm not there just for the burn.
Oh, for sure.
Some people are. Some guys I know are just like burn it.
Oh yeah, I've done like 3 1-chip challenges. So
how did those go?
They were fine. The last one I did not go so well.
Oh,
but, yeah.
You've done it 3 times.
Yeah. And every
like
time I did it,
or something, or like
also like every year they had a different release, of it,
different flavor kind of thing.
And of course, after doing one, you're like, all right, I'm never doing it again. But then they have a new one and it has new marketing. I'm like, oh, I got to try that.
Got you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's I'm not ever gonna try that. I bet I could get my wife to do it.
The taste is just as bad as the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It tastes terrible.
Just get it done. Get it over with. So we've been doing Park Avenue for 7-ish years. What's the best piece of advice you've received over that time?
So I haven't really had like an advisor or anything. I don't have a Mickey or Apollo Creed behind me, pushing me on. But my
love the reference.
Yeah, my friends. It's basically the support of my family and friends. I have, they've always given me feedback and to keep it going. Because the hot sauce scene is just so huge. And you feel like, who am I? Just so just a little duck in a pond, but just the remembrance of what Park Ave and that name represents. It's family.
Oh yeah.
So, it's learning trials. You learn as you go.
Yeah, a lot. You learn a lot.
Yeah.
Then on the flip side, if one of our listeners is thinking about starting their own business, what piece of advice would you give them?
So that's always the question, right? There's not really a book out there where you're like, oh, you're into this craft, this is what you got to do, A, B, C, D.
Yep.
I would say, depending on, obviously nowadays, with social media, try to find a Facebook group. Attend a craft event, whether it's a bakery or vendor crafts. Attend one, and don't be afraid to ask questions. One for the cottage home. If you go on Google, type in Illinois cottage home law, there's a PDF guide you can download, and it lays it out for you.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it's connected to the Illinois Steward Alliance. It's like a community of farmers.
Oh, okay.
Like in southern Illinois, kind of like towards Springfield area down there.
Very cool.
I might be wrong. It's a location, but it's southern. And so they have a booklet where you can download the PDF. Talks about different categories. You know, if you're into baking, here's the requirements. If you're into sauces or salsa, you know, here's what you got to do with that. But also it depends on what county you live in. You know,
Of course.
you know, Cook County, I'm sure has different requirements.
Crazy
Yeah.
stuff.
So, you know, McHenry County might have something different. But, you know, as far as, you know, Lake County, you know, you just work with the health department. The lady that I worked with is Pam Smith.
Okay.
So she's in charge of all that. Yeah, I would say just don't let the fear of the unknown slow you down.
Oh, it's so
You know,
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I was like, all right, if I'm going to be legit, now the government's watching me. You know, if I'm $5 short on my reports, am I going to have federal agents show up to my
IRS
door?
knocking on your
Yeah,
front
you
door,
know?
you know.
Yeah. So
FBI's raiding your paperwork.
yeah. So just don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, it's not supposed to be easy at the beginning, but just not letting the fear of the unknown slow you down.
And there are resources out there. I think we talk about on this podcast often is that don't be fearful of what you don't know, because you'll never know everything.
Right.
And if you get kind of stuck in that paralysis, I mean, you'll never make any progress. So it's like either learn by mistake, because it happens, because we all make mistakes through our own businesses. And I think you said it perfectly. Ask questions. I mean, I have not crossed. That's not entirely true. Pretty much everyone I've ever crossed has been wanting to be helpful. They want to answer questions. You know, they're like, they'll point you in the right direction. They'll give you a resource, a website, a phone number, give you 5 minutes of their time. And, you know, I know it's so cliche, but you know, unless you ask, the answer is always no, right? Or there is no answer.
Yeah.
You know? It's so yes, ask questions, people. I mean, and I will always say, and I'm going to put an asterisk on that, take it with a grain of salt.
Sure.
Disclaimer, because it doesn't mean they're right, but, you know, at least it's a voice of, you know, a reason of opinion, somewhere get you some direction.
Absolutely.
You know, crowdsource it. You know, 10 people telling you the same thing, there's probably some viability to it, you know, kind of thing. What's the plan for Park Avenue? Is this something you want to eventually be your full-time thing? Like that's, you know, taking care of you and the family?
You know, I'm currently at that point where, you know, it's still, you know, a side hobby. I know many other...
Oh, it's a business now. It's not a hobby.
Yeah, it's a business. Yeah. You know, I know that, you know, I always tip my hat to other people who rely on this stuff, you know, full time. But, you know, the nice thing is with this, you know, I can kind of go at my own pace with it. If obviously the next level would be to, you know, get in stores and stuff like that. But for now, I'm kind of just seeing how things work out. You know, obviously I have a solid brand down. I have a dedicated fan base. And if it keeps growing, you know, and things, you got to go to the next level to keep the demand going, you know, we'll see what happens.
I love that. Just figure it out, man.
Yeah.
You know? Wherever it takes you, it's going to take you.
Yeah.
What was going to ask you? I totally had a cool question I was going to ask you, and I'm totally blanking right now. There we go again with me losing my train of thought here on a Saturday morning. So, okay, we're coming up into, March already.
Yeah.
What happened to February, man? So where can people find you kind of coming up in March and April? What kind of events have you signed up for already?
Yeah, so I will be at Harbor Brewing in Webster Harbor location. I'll be there a lot this upcoming summer.
Oh, in the summer. I was going to say,
yeah.
I'm like...
No.
That's not water, man. It's like 8 degrees outside today.
I do have a funny story about that, though. This was like the day before Thanksgiving. I was in the parking lot. Well, not the parking lot, but the front entrance of Black Lung at the Round Lake location, and it was cold. I was out there by myself because I was like, I didn't care. I'm just
sucking it up.
Yeah, I'm like, this is an opportunity to advertise again.
Marketing is marketing. Man.
Yeah, so I've been outside in the cold before. But this year, so I have another date coming up in March. I believe it's March 16th at Harbor Brewing in Lake Villa.
Yeah.
And then we'll start there. So you can always follow me on Facebook, Instagram. I'll post events there.
Where you're gonna be at,
yeah, my events are also posted on the web store. Also, I'll be back at Gurney Days in the summer. Yeah, I was there last year.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was really fun.
That's a big event.
Yeah, the people who run that, they're super chill, very nice,
so organized.
Compared
to some of these other ones I've seen, it's like they actually got their shit together.
Yeah, same thing with the Mundelein market. They're very organized. So I'll be there. I'll be at when it's nicer out. I'll be at the Winthrop Harbor.
Harbor Brewing's events at Winthrop Harbor.
I'll be at a couple of dates towards the end of the Gurney's Farmers Market.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure also along the way, if things pop up, I'll jump on it. But those are the ones that I have planned out. Actually,
love that.
For now. Yeah.
I remember the question I wanted to ask you earlier.
Yeah.
For 2025, what's an area of opportunity you really want to focus on for the business?
I would say marketing.
Yeah,
it's always the answer, right?
Make more money.
And in marketing and just making a better connection, with the community. I would say I felt like I had an impact once I had customers hitting me up on Facebook Messenger saying, hey, you're out of stock on the website. When's this going to come back in?
That's awesome.
It's like you actually have people asking you, like, you're out, man. I need
this stuff. I need my fix.
Yeah, exactly. So, just keep the fan base growing. And, this is truly a Lake County pride product. You can, it's made in Lake County. The story is based out of Lake County, and it's just something, because that's so this is going to make you laugh.
Oh, good.
I was trying to think of that reference. Office Space.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
It's like anybody can buy a cheeseburger anywhere. They come to Tchotchkes for the atmosphere. So.
I've got 50 pieces of flair.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So I mean, you could go to the store. If you need some hot sauce, go to the store. But this way, you feel like you have a piece of Lake County pride with you. When you buy it.
Have you ever partnered up with any of the local farms for peppers?
No. I tried getting into that a little bit, but as it stands right now, it's just a little bit more convenient. Just getting them at the store.
Yeah. There's we were talking about before we started recording, different kind of connections that's come up through the podcast, and there was one of the restaurants ended up partnering with Temple Farms, who eventually will be on the podcast, but they're out of, it's not Gurney, but it's just north of Gurney.
Okay.
But they love supporting local stuff like that. So if you ever, they do peppers. So if you ever,
I've had to join some Facebook groups, especially for Hades Burden, the ingredients, because Reapers and Ghost peppers aren't available all year round.
Yeah.
So there was a farm I networked with and out of Indiana.
Oh, very cool.
And so they always post they're like, this is our harvest, so
this is all we have.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
How many jalapenos would you say is in one bottle of Green Rush?
Oh man.
I I've never thought about it that way until right now. I don't know why, but it was like,
So roughly with like the the bottle ratio, with 24 bottles, I put in roughly 50 jalapenos to make the whole batch. Yeah.
So we'd say about two jalapenos per bottle.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
Pop 2 jalapenos and see if you can handle it. See, I told you the hour is gonna fly by. We're hitting just about an hour right now.
Oh man.
I told you, man. It just
After hours.
Was there anything you were hoping to talk about today, or anything we didn't cover that you? I mean, this is your story, man. So if there's anything you want to pour out, no shame. It's about you.
No, just this brand has definitely. It would be nothing without the support of family, and friends. I have when I first started out, this one girl. Shout out to Sam. She kind of created her own hashtag. She was a fan before the brand. So
oh my God, I love that.
It was like she would love to have the sauce, and this was when it was just a plain bottle. There's nothing on it, and a couple of other friends, they would be my taste testers, so you guys are the guinea pigs.
Get over here.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it's definitely, just the feedback and support, and even times where you felt like the brand is just not really going anywhere, you reach that dull moment, or where self-doubt kicks in. You reflect back on the things that you've heard from other people, and you remind yourself of the whole point of doing it.
Do you think you've personally grown from doing this business?
Oh yeah. I definitely say confidence level, because I'm
in yourself.
Yeah, because I'm kind of definitely more like an introvert per se.
Couldn't tell on the podcast, man.
Yeah.
You're crushing it.
Yeah, no, I'm a night out for me is pizza and horror movies at the house.
I love it. I love it.
So again, it was when I was talking about, I was a barista for a good while, exchanging things, but this is me representing me.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm on the spot.
No pressure, man.
Yeah, no pressure. So, and people try to engage with me and talking about my sauce. That's where I've grown. I don't feel nervous when I see someone slowly approaching my table. I'm like, oh well, here we go. Let's see, like, what's your heat level? What kind of food pairings do you like to do? So as I say, definitely one of the biggest things from this business is self-confidence, for sure.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also just as a business owner, another thing, kind of tying back to one of your previous questions, is don't ever expect anything to happen. I signed up for an event one time where the audience was like over 2,000 people.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was like a street festival.
Yeah.
So they shut the street down, and they had food trucks and stuff and live music. I'd say I was there for maybe 6 hours. I think I sold 5 bottles that day. Yeah. And like a huge pack, biggest crowd I ever dealt with. So that was kind of a bad day. But ironically, I had another gig the following week, much smaller crowd, and I sold like 30 bottles. Like,
no rhyme or reason.
Yeah. So it's like, just, you never know what's going to happen, and I'm sure other, vendors have stories that are just as similar,
We got to get you involved. I don't know if you get out in Highwood very often, but they do is it a hot sauce fest or a pepper fest? Something where it's like, dude,
Okay.
you would fit in, dude, you would crush it there, man. And it's all
I'll have to
about
look into that.
I think they based it around, it was originally like a chili fest, but they kind of like expanded it out to like peppers and hot sauces and all these different things. Dude, you would kill there.
I would have to look into that.
Yeah.
Only reason I go to Highwood is to get some Some Buffos. You know,
Oh
the
God,
pizza
Buffalo's
there.
Pizza,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Legendary.
You have to on the other end of the pizza spectrum. You have to go to 28 Mile across this, basically across the street from Buffalo's for the most part.
Oh, okay.
And they do it. Just you're comparing apples and oranges and pizza. They're
Sure.
both good, but just for very different
Yeah,
reasons.
right,
you know?
right. Trust. Yeah.
But yeah, check that out. But anyway, I digress. Dude, it's been awesome to have you on. I love your story. I love your branding. And all along with it, you have incredible hot sauce. So
yeah.
thank you for sharing some with us today, dude. This is going on my breakfast I'm having right after this. So
You'll hit me up again. Trust me. It happens.
well, you guys, as always, support local, shop small. And we're going to plug all of Park Avenue's websites, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. So you can give him a follow. You know, more than likely, I would give it a try. You know, whatever your heat level is, he's got something for you. And sounds like a really good Chipotle coming out probably sooner than later, guys. So pay attention for that. So thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
And thank you all. And until next time, goodbye for now.
Another episode and another incredible local business you wish you'd have found sooner. If you had fun today, share this with someone who needs to hear it, leave a review, and most importantly, put your money where your community is. Find a local business, show them some love, and tell them Small Business Big Dreams sent you. I'm Eric Bohl. Shop small, dream big, and until next time, goodbye for now.